Warning, this content may be disturbing to some audiences. Subscribe. If you dare. He broke into my house and chased me into my bedroom, then spent 10 minutes shouting through my locked bedroom door that I should come out and have a reasonable conversation with him, adult to adult. Hey everybody, welcome to ANECDOSED. People ask Reddit. Girls of Reddit who have rejected people, what's the worst way someone has taken it? Number 1. My current girlfriend has a 6 cut on her left thigh after her ex assaulted her with a knife in an attempt to rape her. As they fought, she yanked out the knife and held it at his throat to force him off her. The F is serving 7 years in prison. Number 2. Commenter. I have access to the student files. I know where you live. A few weeks later there were reports of a guy looking into windows around my neighborhood. Thank God he got caught before he escalated to a B&E or worse. Person B. My ex did similar stuff when I broke up with him. He was working at a pizza place in the small town we both were living in and texted me that he found my new address through their delivery system. Whether or not that's true, I still screenshot his messages and send them to his manager. Needless to say, he was fired. I was honestly more annoyed than scared when it happened. I've since moved, and thinking back on it, it really creeps me out. Number 3. A guy on OkCupid had messaged me a few times, and I told him I wasn't interested. After the third time I asked him not to message me again, and he threatened to track me down and anally rape me. He was also old enough to be my father, so there's that. Number 4. I was 13 and I basically told this really old dude to screw off while he was stopped at a light shouting shit at me. Light went green. He speeds off, U-turns wildly, then comes speeding back and threatens to shoot me. Then there was this other guy at a concert who didn't take no for an answer. He pinned me against the wall and only scurried away because the police crashed the concert at nearly the same moment. The worst one about that was my friends just watching it happen, doing nothing. Number 5. My ex-girlfriend rejected a really drunk guy in front of me while we were out at a bar one night. The guy responded by stepping over to me, grabbing my face, jamming his tongue in my mouth, and then biting me on the ear hard enough to draw blood. He was grabbed and shown the door really quick, but I was just in complete shock. To make the story weirder, I'm a guy and he was very straight and very drunk. I'm pretty sure he was declaring dominance or something. No clue. Number 6. He broke into my house and chased me into my bedroom, then spent 10 minutes shouting through my locked bedroom door that I should come out and have a reasonable conversation with him, adult to adult. Number 7. I finally managed to dump my emotionally abusive ex for the last time, and a couple weeks later he found out I was staying with my mom's. One night he hid in the bushes in her garden and waited for her to go to bed so he could knock on my window and give me a bag full of presents. 6 months later his mom rang me and asked when I was going to put him out of his misery and get back together with him because he was becoming unbearably depressed. It's literally been 6 months of absolutely no contact. Why the F are you all still waiting? Number 8. When I was a nanny, I was walking around with the baby in the pram and we visited a bookshop. A man in there started talking to me, and then asked me out. Very kindly, keeping my father's advice in mind about being kind when I have to reject men when they ask me out, I said that was a nice offer, but my boyfriend might not be too keen on it. His response to that was to lean in and try and kiss me. I told him to get the F off me. He then exploded with rage and started screaming in my face. I was saved by the bookstore employee. The man stormed out of the shop. I spent the next few hours shaking like a leaf. What a champion. Number 9. My sister was killed by her husband when she tried to leave him. The bullet didn't kill her instantly and he sat next to me in the ICU crying crocodile tears and telling me what a whore she was. The story he gave the police was that she shot herself. She was in a cast to her fingertips from the broken arm he gave her. I have no faith in the police. I know many are good people, but not there and not then. Thankfully he's dead too. The world is better off. I was scared it was only a matter of time until he killed someone else. I've got my own stories, but they pale in comparison. Number 10. He sent me an email with a 3-page essay attached. It was written entirely in third person, recounting his first rejection by a girl named Tanya at the age of 16. There were a lot of solitary beach walks, she's the perfect girl talk, him not talking no for an answer, and the story eventually ends with him drinking antifreeze, slipping into a coma, hospitalized, and eventually recuperating. Only to tell poor Tanya that she could avoid him, and his parents' pain by agreeing to date him. The email said, "So you know what you're getting into. I was 19 and did not see this extreme level of crazy coming, but knew I needed to really make how I felt clear. I immediately called him to reiterate that I do not want to be with him, I no longer want to be friends with him, and if he contacted me again I would change my number. I let a friend of his know what was going on. 5 days later he called from a different number to tell me he was out in the country with a gun to his head, and if I didn't agree to be with him then and there he was pulling the trigger. I lied and convinced him I had to leave because I had a family emergency and sick in the hospital, but we would talk the next day. Had a mutual friend call him and report back as is suspected he was full of shit. Sure enough I was right, he was totally fine. He called the next day and with the most sing-song creepy serial killer tone said, "You think you're so fivus? What type of shitty human being doesn't agree to what someone needs when they tell you they're going to kill themselves? You piece of shived." I lost the plot. Told him I'm changing my numbers, and the next time he contacts me it will be the police involved. He just laughed the whole time and told me he hopes I die alone, like I deserve. Radio silence for 6 years until I'm getting married. I have an email from him, "Hey. Wow, it's been a while. How are you? Would be so great to catch up sometime. Effing psychotic asshole." Obviously I never replied and changed my email, again. Number 11. I got the "how dare you do that" when I threatened to kill myself. Shit too from a guy once. He was holding a gun to his head right in front of me and I, by that time tired of suicide threats due to him being the fourth guy trying this shit on me, just said fine, but since I'd be traumatized, I wouldn't come to your funeral. I knew very well he wasn't going to do it. After I left, I got a text saying how cold-hearted I was and how when someone threatens to kill themselves one has to hug them. It took months until I managed to get him to stop trying to contact me. Edit, since I got a lot of advice and a lot of the same question, let me add a few things here in advance so I don't have to answer individually. I was 17 back then. I was majorly depressed and suicidal myself, albeit without ever pulling shit like that because I never was and never will be this kind of asshole. I am 24 now, this is long over. I appreciate your worries, guys, but there's no need for them anymore. I went through therapy, I'm in a good place, it's okay. Yes, I was at first scared when he pulled out the gun, but it took me only about 30 seconds to take it from him because he was, overall, not a strong-willed person. Quite the opposite, actually. He was one of those people you could get to sit down by just screaming it at them. I had witnessed this at some point, so while I was scared, it wasn't too bad because I knew he'd never have the guts. The whole thing was more of a melodramatic Shakespeare scene than it was dangerous. I'm not even sure the gun was loaded, and when I took it from him, it wasn't cocked. Number 12. I also once had a guy send me hundreds of text messages calling me all kinds of names, cursing me out and threatening me because I didn't have sex with him after our entirely lackluster, first and last, date. I didn't even bother reading beyond the first 50. Just let him go on and on until I blocked and mass deleted. Still, it was nuts. Number 13. I was pregnant, out celebrating my birthday with my partner. We had been for dinner and decided to call in at a bar where all of my friends were, as they wanted to wish me a happy birthday. Just before we left I headed to the bathroom, and my partner and friends went outside for a cigarette. On my way back from the bathroom a guy stopped me, he said something about my boobs then attempted to motorboat me. I grabbed his chin and pushed his face away from me and went to walk away. He smashed a pint glass into the side of my face and punched me in the head several times. I was lucky that there was a table behind me that I was able to grab onto, or else I'd have fallen to the floor. He was thrown out by the bouncers, but it was up to myself and my friends to call the police to report what had happened. He was arrested, it went to court, he was found not guilty of sexual assault, and he pleaded guilty to assault. He didn't get any jail time and I got £180 compensation, which I received in 1p monthly payments. Number 14. I turned down a guy that was known for being a popular guy and I thought he was a bit of a dickhead. When he tried to kiss me I turned my head the other way, said I wasn't interested and walked off. He grabbed my hand, spat in my face and said I missed the best opportunity in my life and the only reason he tried to kiss me was because he pitied me. Number 15. Went into a gas station to get my mom some lottery tickets and the cashier asked for my ID. While holding my ID, he begins questioning my marital status among other personal details. I told him I wasn't interested and paid. He gives me my ID back. I go to the car, start it up and begin to tell my little sister what happened as she was waiting in the car and she starts yelling that someone is coming over. Now the cashier is tapping my window and yelling, "Are we friends?" I put the car in reverse and drove away. While I don't know for certain who did it, the next day I had my tire slashed. I was told that the way my tire looked, seemed like it was most likely intentional. Unfortunately this was like 8 years ago so I no longer have the picture of the tire. As a precaution, I had some of my male friends go by and tell him to leave me alone. I never went back to that gas station and didn't have any issues with the guy after that. The worst part was I was 18, and when I told my mom what happened regarding the guy harassing me, she didn't believe me. F you, Bill. You're single because you're a creep. Number 16. Commenter. When I worked retail, there was a creepy guy that came in to send a fax who started saying weird shit, then started coming to the copy center multiple times a week. I was 18 and had no idea how to handle it, so I started hiding when he came in, which all of my managers and coworkers supported. I found out the hard way that he worked at the gas station across the street. I went in to pay for gas, and as I was leaving he screamed, literally screamed, with a lot of customers in line, "You're mesmerizing." Luckily my managers never let me leave the building alone, and I never saw him again, but it was scary. Person B. I have a similar story. I worked for the same type of store as you as a manager. It was in a strip next to a Big Lots, where I went to pick up random food items when I forgot my lunch. Dude was behind me in the checkout line one day, and then followed me out, saying I seemed like a good Christian girl. I'm an atheist, but went to Catholic schools, and he was looking for a helpmate. Note that dude was in his late 40s or older, and I was 26 at the time. I thanked him for his kind words, but I had to get back to work. He came in multiple times over the next few months. I was wearing my work polo during the previous incident, looking for me, causing me to hide in the office, lock up, or behind the counter in the copy center. My male coworkers came really close to beating the shit out of him multiple times. He gave up eventually. I did end up seeing him again like 2 years later, and ignored him while he tried to talk to me on my way into work. He didn't take that well, and said in the snarkiest tone, "What? You don't want to talk to me?" "No sir, I do not." Make sure to share your personal story in the comments below and have the opportunity to be featured in a future video. Also, if you like these topics, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button to continue seeing more content like this every day. See you next time.